Robert Williams back at practice today, and he's been a key that we've talked about throughout this series. If he was himself coming in, I would have probably picked Celtics in 5 or 6 because I just think he's such a matchup breaker in this series for the Warriors. They have no paint access when he's out there. Nobody, you talked about in our last video, Draymond Green getting to the interior and making some stuff happen from there. The only guy I felt like got good rim looks in that game was Andrew Wiggins. He had a pretty good game, but not the kind that's going to swing it one way or another, right, especially as a non-shooter there. So there's got to be something that breaks for the Warriors to be able to open up the paint to looks. You know, Steph Curry's a good finisher. Klay Thompson, I haven't watched a ton of him going downhill in these playoffs, but I didn't feel like that was the thing at all in Game 1 for him. Just overall a shaky Game 1 performance from him, and he's been inconsistent throughout these playoffs. And Jordan Poole was completely swallowed up by Boston's defense. So those are like the 3 heads of the snake for 4, if you want to call it that, for Golden State's offense. And instead they got Iguodala out there trying to run some 2-man game with Poole, and you know, they're trying to shake some things up with some screen action out there. But for some reason, that Warriors offense that we looked at coming into the series and was like, this is a overwhelming unit. Once you took away the paint and Rob was able to do that, they look pretty normal offensively to me. Like, they just weren't an intimidating group.
Again, Bob, it goes to what we've been saying going into the series. Like, this just isn't that same Warriors team that was so scary, 3 years ago, or even
missing Durant. That's like the guy, right?
That's the guy. And people, it'd be lazy for us to be like, oh, you replaced Durant with Wiggins. Like, it's not quite that simple, but in a sense, he is an ideal third option for that offense. But when, again, Klay's not himself right now, so they're in a tough spot. In my opinion, going into Game 2, if you're the Warriors, you have to find a way to get them going. But again, it can't just be about scoring. It can't just be about shooting, rather, right? It's got to be in transition, because he can get downhill. It's just that they don't look for him in that way, right? And Andrew Wiggins is a guy who's going to make those quick. What am I saying? What am I trying to say right now? He's going to make those quick decisions. He's not going to dribble the ball too much. He's carved out that role so nicely for them, and also being that defender that can stay in front of Jaylen Brown and force some turnovers. So I love him for that third role, that third option for the Warriors, but they have to get Klay going. And I think once that happens, it's going to open things up for shooters. It's going to open things up for guys that are in position to come in and score. Jordan Poole, defensively, I think we see Gary Payton come back in this one. I know he's not 100%, but he's been activated. They didn't go to him in Game 1. I think that's something that they're going to look at to try to slow things down when the Boston offense really gets going. So it'll be interesting to see those adjustments, come through from Steve Kerr, because he can't come with the same approach in Game 2.
I feel like injuries will still be one of the major things that swing this series. Both teams relatively healthy for now, but how does Rob come into Game 2? It's like any given day it could be different from him. Could even miss a game at some point, just based on how this injury is reacting. Now, we've talked about the gaps between games. Yeah. That works in his favor. That's another reason I really think the Celtics are going to win this series, because if you get him at 80-85% for 20 minutes a game, that's just a ginormous win. And then you sprinkle in your Tice minutes, Grant, you go smaller with Pritchard, and that's a formula that works in this series. But Rob's got to be available to some degree and look like himself. The Payton one's interesting because defensively, the Warriors are going to have to switch it up here. Just the matchups in that game, letting Tatum get the straight looks at Curry, those switches, Green playing back line. It wasn't really a formula for success when the Celtics are sharpshooting like they were. Yeah. So I would actually adjust if I'm Golden State and actually guard those three-point shots, let Tatum attack one-on-one against a guy like Payton, or maybe you put Green on him. I don't know what Payton's going to be able to provide, just because with that left arm, you saw him in practice today not doing too much with it. Mm-hmm. He might be a zero offensively to such a degree that you're going to make it easy for Boston's offense to play off him with Rob and others if he's out there. But you got to give it a shot, as you said, and I think you're pretty high on what he's going to be able to do against Tatum, Brown, or some of those other ball handlers, just because the Celtics look at their worst when they're rushed, and he's a guy that can rush the offense on the ball.
Yeah, especially when you saw the way the Celtics were defended in the Eastern Conference Finals, getting them half court or full
Lowry,
court.
Right?
Yeah, Lowry picking them up full court in those last couple of games. Or actually, I think it started in Game 5, but you saw it a lot more in the last 2 games, in Game 6 and Game 7 of that series. obviously Lowry was in no way, the same guy he used to be, or was he healthy? But he was still able to apply that type of pressure that I think did make an impact. So I could see someone like Gary Payton doing that as well. He's much younger. He's just itching to get in there. It's obviously his first NBA Finals appearance. So his dad's in the crowd. They're at home.
Is his dad there?
His dad was in Game 1, and I'm gonna say with about 90% sure that he'll be at Game 2 for sure. So that's big. I mean, look, he made a name for himself as that guy for this team, throughout the course of the regular season, especially when things were down. Like, he was sort of the guy who gave them that spark on the defensive end that turned their record around and put them in a good position.
I'd rather have him out there than Iguodala, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree with that, but also not to diminish Iguodala altogether, because I think that veteran leadership and the fact that he has a championship pedigree and he can sort of rough guys up. I
know, but I was stunned he was out there just because Game 2 against Denver, I believe, was the last time he played.
You make it sound like he's like 45 or something, man. Like he's Udonis Haslem. Like he can still move up and down the floor. He's close. That's fair. But look, if you get
I'm a big Iguodala guy, by the way.
If you get the Iguodala from a couple of years ago, you take that. But also, you don't want to extend the guy out there for 20 minutes. I just think he's good to sort of throw another body at someone like Tatum or Jalen, or even that second unit. He can really get them going. And then on the offensive end, he can push the ball as well in transition. So, again, I think it's more of get everybody's spirits up. I think he does make that sort of impact in the locker room. So I think we see both of them, honestly, because I think Golden State is looking at things on the defensive end and saying, man, if we just plug things up here and there in that fourth quarter, maybe things could have gone another way.
Yeah, they should be trying everything. They got Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody on the bench as well, who have given them some minutes at certain points this year. They have a lot of different options. They shouldn't be going too thin early in this series, I think. They got to see who works, who doesn't, what combinations can possibly unlock some things against the Celtics. But the most important thing, as we talked about there, is rushing Boston. I feel like they didn't even really try in that Game 1.